Alright, so hello everybody, welcome to another video, and today I want to talk about what is probably my favorite character that I have ever put together in Path of Exile, and it is an Animate Guardian / Animate Weapon Pathfinder. And I know that might sound weird, but let me explain. Normally with a character like this, you would either go Necromancer, or some people even go Guardian, or you go Scion so that you get bonuses from both Necromancer and Pathfinder. So why go pure Pathfinder? Well, because I wanted to have as much flask recovery as possible, and I also needed to negate the fact that I have pretty much no flasks whatsoever. Because even the flasks that I do have, I kind of don't. So here's the character, and it is currently a level 86 Pathfinder called Hellman's Ranger Metamorph. I'm not very good with names, and it's pretty similar to a standard Animate Guardian / Animate Weapon setup. So it's running Chains of Command, which makes it so that whenever your Animated Guardian kills an enemy, it will animate the Animated Guardian's weapon as an animated weapon. And if that weapon then kills an enemy, there's a 10% chance it will animate a slightly lower version of that weapon again, which kind of allows you to snowball your way through maps as your Animated Guardian starts killing things. But it also makes it so that you cannot have non-animated minions, so things like specters, zombies, skeletons, that kind of stuff. It makes it so that all your animated minions' melee attacks will splash to surrounding enemies for 50% damage, and the animated weapons are supported by the gems socketed in the Chains of Command. So what you do is you put Animate Guardian into an ideally +3 socketed minion gem helmet with meat shield, minion life, and elemental army so that it's as beefy as possible, because if your Animated Guardian dies, you lose all the items you use to animate the Guardian, which is not only annoying but can also be expensive. And you mostly focus your damage on the actual animated weapon, so you have minion damage, feeding frenzy, ruthless, multi-strike, combustion, and elemental damage with attacks. And the reason you support it with this is because we're using Oro's Sacrifice as the Animated Guardian's weapon. This sword is incredibly cheap in the vast majority of leagues. It does pure fire damage, so we can support it with fire-based and elemental-based stuff, and it makes it so that whenever you ignite an enemy, you get a frenzy charge, which are incredibly powerful on minions. So what we do is we stack the chance to ignite on Oro's Sacrifice on top of the chance to ignite you get from the combustion support gems, which makes it so that whenever our minions hit something, there's a good chance they will ignite it and get a frenzy charge. And finally, we come to the reason why we're actually using a Pathfinder, and it's this belt that was introduced in 3.9 called Mother's Embrace. And what this belt does is it makes it so that whenever a minion is summoned, it will take a sip of your flasks, and on top of that, the minion has ridiculously reduced flask charges used, you can roll down to 40%, and increased flask effect duration, which can roll up to 80%. And the best thing about this is that it works with the writhing jars, which is why we're using 4 of them. And also why we're a flask finder, so that we can replenish our flasks as fast as possible. So here's how this works. You load into a map, your Animated Guardian kills an enemy, which summons an animated weapon, which then takes a sip of all your flask, which summons a bunch of worms, which your Animated Guardian will then kill, which will summon another animated weapon, which will take a sip of all your flasks, and yeah, all of this happened, by the way, because I pressed one flask once. And it's not even that impressive, because you don't get any flask charges from killing the worms, but if you're in a map and your flasks are constantly refilling, you become this flipping fountain that's constantly spewing out worms, which your minions will then kill, which will summon more minions, which will summon more worms, which will summon more minions, which will summon more worms. So pretty much as soon as you kill like 1 or 2 packs in a map, you're gonna be sitting at like 40 animated weapons, which obliterate absolutely everything if you get enough movement speed, and that includes bosses and metamorphs. Now you could still do this manually, right? You could just get the writhing jars without the belt and sit there and go 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 throughout the entire map, but not only is that gonna give you a carpal tunnel, you're also not gonna get as many worms, because remember, the minions from the belt have upwards of 40% reduced flask charges used. And if on top of that you get yourself well-rolled writhing jars, which also have a pretty wide range on reduced flask charges used, you get to a point like this, where my minions are actually refilling the writhing jars faster than they can use them. And it is just ridiculous. I love it. Now the tree here is a little bit odd, because you generally, for a build like this, want to be at the top left side of the tree, and the ranger starts at the bottom right. But it's not too bad, because you can start off by just picking up some life and some flask recovery stuff near ranger, then you head over to the Scion area, you pick up all the skill effect duration, some life, as well as some jewel sockets, and finally you head up towards Witch and Templar, where you pick up all the minions shenanigans. Now, the one downside of this build is that you can't level as Animate Guardian because the Chains of Command chess piece requires level 70, so you need to be at least level 70 to start using this build. I would actually recommend against leveling as a minion-based setup, even for this build, just respec a couple of notes at the end, because doing any type of minion setup on side of Herald of Agony with like Cobra Lash is gonna be really hard, because you won't have access to any minion damage nodes until like level 40 or something. So just level with whatever feels the best, or if you just want smooth sailing all the way to maps, pick up Cobra Lash, level with that, and once you get Herald of Agony, that's pretty much all you need, right? The Agony Crawler is incredibly powerful, so just let that carry you up until maps, or up until you get to level 70-ish, and you have enough currency to buy all the things you need, which is going to be the Chains of Command chess piece, then a decent minion helmet with at least +2 minion gems, so that your Animate Guardian is higher level and has more health, and of course the gear for Animated Guardian, which is going to be Oro Sacrifice for the weapon, then probably Belly of the Beast for the chestplate, which gives them a ton of extra % to life and is very cheap. Then for the boots, just go for Victario's Flight, which is going to give you and the animated weapons bonus movement speed. For the helmet, you probably want to go for Wraeclast to begin with, so that the animated weapons have more damage, and the gloves at the start don't really matter. I mean, you can give him Oscar armor or something, or just something with % life. It, once again, doesn't really matter to begin with. You can later, of course, reanimate the Guardian by just animating another chest piece, like for example, the Blight chest piece is really strong, but it's also very expensive, so if you have all the money in the world, you can use that. Or for the gloves, you can use, I don't remember what they're called, Icenats, Gentle Touch, the Legion unique gloves, you can use those, which are also very expensive. Basically, sky's the limit when it comes to animating the Guardian. But to begin with, just get Oro Sacrifice, Belly of the Beast, Victario's Flight, Wraeclast, and then some random gloves. And for you, it's always a good idea to pick up An's Heritage or any kind of summoner, because it has good block, good armor, good life, and makes it so that when you don't have endurance charges, which on this build you won't have, you have +3 to all maximum resistances. And then you want to pick up some Ghastly Eye Jewels that are rolled with life and minion movement speed, and you want to get one with minions have a chance to blind and one with minions have a chance to taunt. This pretty much guarantees that any boss you fight is going to be taunted by your minion, so it's not going to try to fight you, and if it is going to try and fight you, it's going to be blinded, so there's a good chance that it will not hit you. And finally, we have the Ascendancy, so we start off with Nature's Boon for the reduced elemental damage taken and the flask regeneration, so they gain 3 charges every 3 seconds. Then you hippity-hoppity over to Master Alchemist, which makes you immune to all elemental ailments during flasks, which is very important because you only have 1 flask, so if you don't have this, you're going to die to like freezes and ignites and shocks and all that kind of stuff. This is another big reason why I chose Pathfinder, because without this you can only remove one thing, which is probably going to be bleeding, so that you don't bleed to death every time something punctures you. Then you're going to move over to Nature's Adrenaline, which is not that big. I mean, it increases movement speed during flask effect, which is quite nice. And finally, you're going to pick up Master Surgeon, which is going to remove bleeding when you use a flask as well. And an important thing here is that before you finish Uberlab and you get Master Surgeon, you're going to roll that 1 flask, which is probably going to be Quicksilver, with the Staunching suffix, so it can remove bleeding as well as elemental ailments. But once you get that node, once you finish Uberlab, you can re-roll it to Warding, so that 1 flask will naturally remove curses and then remove all elemental ailments and bleeding because you're a Pathfinder. And that is pretty much all I wanted to say, so I thank you very much for watching. As always guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video and you will have some fun with this build if you do indeed decide to try it out, and I will see you some other time. Bye bye!